to the Blackhouse.
Welcome to the Blackhouse.
Welcome to the Blackhouse. Wellington Access Radio 106.1 FM. You are here on this fine, windy, wet Saturday with Eddie Nani and Onkyo in the studio with us today. How's everyone's week been going?
Oh my God, it is so wet out there.
Yeah.
Lord help me.
I was walking home this morning and I had my wet work pants from yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things where, like, as I was walking up through the streets of Town.
Yeah.
And I put on like an extra 5 kgs in water, like water.
You got carrying that water weight.
It was straight up. It was like water.
Oh no, my water burst.
It was straight up just like it was waterlogged merino.
Yes.
And it was on this point I got home. I was like, why am I more tired than this walk doesn't usually kill me like
right,
this.
right. No, I'm like straight up. I'm like walking to get here from I'm all the way out. I'm Target. I'm like jumping puddles. Like I'm like actually being forced to like jump over puddles just to get across things. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, just keep it on fleek.
See, I was doing that as I was coming down the stairwells, to get down from the terrace down to get down to London Quay.
No,
and I was just sitting around. This is risky.
Yeah, right. I did find myself walking down a set of stairs, and I slipped a bit, and I was like, nope, no, not me.
Especially when you're our height,
right?
It's that thing you just like
you feel like a tree coming down. You're like,
yeah,
Tim.
I just remember I was like, my friends was like, this fall will kill me. That's just it. It's not coming back. From
those TikToks where the person falls and turn into scattered Lego or something like that. I'm just like, I'm sure if I actually hit the ground.
That is going to be a fantastic time sync for me this evening. So I guess before we get underway, we have a couple of announcements and shout outs. So today we have the Kenneth Kaunda Memorial on today. So it started at 2 but goes on till 4. So, this is an ideal time to listen to the Blackhouse as you drive to the memorial. It's on it's a Kiwi class on 39 Webb Street in Mount Cook. They've asked to please use the back door entrance, and if you can, bring a bit of food to share. There's going to be speakers who personally knew him, speaking about his contributions to Pan-Africanism. So I think that's one of those things. It's obviously remember last week we had the High Commissioner of South Africa talking about Mandela, and I think in the same vein, I think it's good to have to go to these kind of memorials for these really influential African leaders and people of importance in Pan-African thought, which is I think really important. So if you can get down to that would be fantastic, and just chuck us all in the car as you're on the way.
Yeah. And
then also later on this afternoon is the Tigray Community Cultural Night. So it's being held at 27 Chelsea Street in Miramar. So it's starting at kind of 4 o'clock, and then it's kind of going through till late. Ooh. So get to know, and I think the idea of it is to try and get build an understanding of Tigray culture through food, fun, and fashion. And then it's welcome for everyone to attend. So there's an entry fee, but that includes the food for the night. So it's $25 for adults, and kids 12 years and under are $10. And I think Leah's going to be there, so I think Leah's quite excited.
Oh, she's all over this culture, community culture events. Are you kidding me? You could girl is there. She's on point.
So I guess those were our announcements today. Before we get into our discussion, I kind of want to kick off with the Biz Markie thing.
Oh,
first.
You have to.
Okay.
Oh, my heart. My love.
So for those of you who don't know, one of the foundational, most influential people in hip hop, Biz Markie, died this morning at I want to say age 57. If you don't know who Biz Markie is,
he was dope, is what he was.
He's cool.
Who's Biz Markie? Sorry.
Okay, hold on.
Hold on.
Nani, take the wheel.
So here I am, a young black girl growing up in Hawaii, and I don't know shit about hip hop. I'm like, what, 9, 10? Somebody hands me like a Biz Markie CD. It doesn't even have a case. They're like, look, girl, you need an education. Put this on. And like the best thing I know is like the brat, like right, like I know a thing or two, but I'm not like connecting to him. And then I slipped that Bismarck on, and before I know it, I'm like all about your bandanas. I'm like, blackness intensify hath become me. Let ye out Bismarck, my love, right? Like, cause he's just like throwing down like this straight like where I was where he was.
Yeah.
And like, who's Bismarck? He's an ugly nigga, so what?
Yo, so this is some science. So if people like Biz Markie, people like, in terms of his influence on music, he is the reason that sampling laws were created.
Yeah.
So his first album essentially was so sample heavy and cleared none of it.
Yeah.
Essentially, like he changed the face of music forever in that he essentially forced like an entire readjustment of how sampling laws worked.
Yeah.
And which, you know, for the better or for the worse, but who else gets to say that was their kind of contribution to hip hop?
Well, I mean, like the other thing, like Bismarck was doing, like whilst a lot of people were focusing on like the elevated of like I'm so this, I'm so that, he was like just down to earth, being like, get back in the ghetto with the rest of us, y'all. Shut up, girl. It's good here. I have some chicken and collard greens. Stop trying to pretend you like pretentious and shit.
And it's great because I remember that. So the song we're gonna play is "Just a Friend," which is like you know the quintessential Biz Markie song.
Yeah.
But like it's the music video that is literally him like dressed as like Beethoven in like his kind of powdered wig, and like belting out like horrifically out of tune. Yeah. And it's fantastic and it's brilliant. And
it's honest, like you know that whole like we're currently in this like race of like relatability and like she's like mask off. I'm gonna really talk about who I am culture, like we're like you know trying to pretend that we're like being honest and we're unmasking and we're really talking about the real. Like Biz Markie just walked in, he was like, look, I just do that. Like he was honest, real and relatable to black people on a level that was just beyond. Like other people are putting up any kind of front, he was like, not me.
Okay, so I feel like we've like ranted on about Biz Markie. So yeah, rest in peace to Biz Markie. Yeah. And this is Just a Friend.
Thank you. That was Biz Markie.
Yeah, that was Just a Friend by Biz Markie.
Yeah, no, that was the High Priest Bismarck from the religion of rap, speaking truth from God.
See, I'm gonna say like before we move on, I guess my final word on Biz Markie is like, there's one of those things that Biz Markie is one of the reasons why I really respect like the rappers that everyone says are kind of corny and like kind of childish or kind of whack, because there's just a level where like if like Biz Markie was, you know, not the greatest by any great sense of thing, but he was legitimate, like he just did what he liked.
Yeah.
He and like didn't really care like how if it sounded, made him sound tough, it made him sound whatever. It was just like straight up, it was just like, I'm gonna go in the booth, I'm gonna say some shit that's funny or like it's gonna make me and my mates laugh.
Like, if it wasn't so sincere, you could class it as parody. Like, but it was sincere. He meant it. It was real.
Yeah. Damn.
Well.
And guess what? The conversation doesn't get any lighter from here.
Right. So Biz Markie's gone. So the black community will need to talk about its mental health right now. I hope you're all got some tissues and like some tissues and some issues.
Yeah, so I guess like so I guess the thing we kind of wanted to, and I guess it's going to be a continuing discussion with multiple guests on the show, and it's just one of the things that but it is, you know, mental health and how that intersects with like, you know, black lived experiences and like
so last week we had like, you know, the potential for a guest, but one of the things that like we were like, the minute we get a slot open, we want to talk about mental health in the community. And Leah's been asking me to talk about this one because this is actually something that is very near and dear to me. I meaningfully care about the reality of mental health in not just the black community or the black diaspora, but just in general. I care about the way that people work. I care about the way that people don't work. I care a lot about people who don't work, and I myself don't work, and I care. Yeah.
But yes, I feel like I don't know. I guess like what we was looking at before the show is I guess like we think before we kind of go into any further discussion, I guess I'm picking. It's pretty good to have like a good framework. I guess of I guess a framework of mental health.
Yeah. So when we were downstairs in the cafe, like we were talking about like, okay, so what angle do you want to take this mental health from? Like the big thing for me right now in terms of mental health is that mental health in itself is a framework for which we are using to identify our crazies. Like, and our not so crazies who are like our crazies and our overachievers who manage to do in a crazy world. Like, and you know, I think that framework is really good. I think it's been very powerful. I really like the shift of conversation from like problematic crazy people who are holding us back to no, mental health is real. It implies that the mind can carry sickness and the mind can carry wellness, and that you must cultivate that sickness or wellness like you would your physical health. And that framework of the phrase mental health, I love it. I think that's amazing. You're right in the sense that like that phrase is correct in the sense that if you let it get sloppy, your mental health will basically be like diabetic and like have knee and kidney issues and lower back pain. So whatever the mental equivalent of those things are, you know, like laziness and anger and anger management issues, you know, like you will not function. You will cease to function. So.
Yeah, so I guess like so I think like from that I guess like the way in which I've often tried to approach like I guess mental health both globally but also here is always, and I guess the one that's always been really relevant to me has been identity and the difficulty of trying to navigate, you know, navigate the spaces. Like, so for my side of things, it's trying to navigate being, you know, a black person in white spaces, it's trying to be a mixed race person in black spaces, it's trying to be a Caribbean in largely African spaces. It's trying to, and like when I say a Caribbean, like it's like it's always based on trying to work out where I fit along this continuum, and like
that's a really good way of calling it, because the whole thing is that you are not mentally unwell if everyone operates exactly like you. You're simply operating along the stream. So there's two axes by which you can be defined as mentally unwell. You are not as fit as those around you, or like because you do not know how, or you lack the capacity in the sense that you just cannot. Like, you know, you are not merely an unwell athlete, you literally are a quadriplegic. You're not going to be able to run in this race. Or it's that, it's like either you do not know how or you cannot. And the mental health factor is learning to mitigate all of the ways in which you cannot swim along the same stream as everyone. And then the other aspect is like learning how to incorporate yourself into like the flow of what everybody else is doing. So like, it's like a mental wellness is the ability to go with the grain of and excel with other people in, you know, what is called regulated society. What we all agree is healthy. Can you? Can you be there? Can you show up this way? It's not unhealthy to be angry, but there is a level of anger, and we do collectively agree on this, which is unregulated and no longer healthy. Like, so where's that line? Let's talk about it. That's framework. Like, you know, so one of the framework for me, the first thing to say in the framework is that classically speaking, like, so the framework is like black mental health. So like, let's first talk about being black. In our culture, it is stigmatized greatly. We go to therapists less, substantially, than like many other demographics. In our culture, we have a need for it more than a lot of demographics for lots of historical, traumatic reasons. If you are black, you are carrying generational trauma from slavery or apartheid or, you know, like dislocation or colonialization. Like, you are carrying the burden of like economic disparity. If you were carrying the burden of only very recently were we even allowed into elite colleges, so we only have so many generations that they go back to. So we have like the fact that like some of our largest, oldest, you know, cultures and nexus of power are not necessarily even linguistically inaccessible to us in the English-speaking diaspora.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of our, you know, oh, you can go to Laos and in Nigeria and you can learn there. What language do they speak there? Not always English. Sorry, that's now off limits to you unless you learn what, French? Like, you know.
Nigerian, it would be like a mix of English, a mix of like obviously Nigerian pidgin.
Yeah,
like,
Nigerian pidgin.
But then obviously that's.
But now you're learning in Nigerian pidgin, but you have to jump a fence in order to be able to access these things. But that's the point I'm making. You have to jump a fence to access these things. Can you jump that fence? Wonderful. You can access this thing.
Yeah.
Many of us cannot. And that's huge. And that's the framework. So you study Black mental health. So you start with Black and you're like, we collectively have a stigma about even talking about generational trauma and the way that we've been shortchanged and that we have seen personally, let alone collectively, let alone the global image of us. Especially me as a Black woman, I am not the most mentally balanced. And you know what? It took me a long time to be like, you're not crazy. Everything around you is crazy, but that does make you look crazy, and you're gonna have to deal with that. Right? Like, having to compensate for my own reality.
So I'm doing well, given the circumstances.
Right? I do. I genuinely think that about myself. I'm like, if someone was in my shoes, they would not necessarily do any better. I know, because I got family. Right? Like, and so, you know, you trying to unpack your personal traumas and what you've been through. You're trying to not be angry. Like, you're trying to hold that Zen space if you're from Hawaii where you forgive everyone. There's light and love in your heart. But like another part, he's like, I ain't got no forgiveness from nobody. Y'all don't betray me. Right? Like, so you're carrying all of that sort of like energy, and like it comes from real spaces, but then you come into a place with a whole bunch of white people who haven't had to deal with this, and you're like, they can feel it like emanating off of you, and they're like, we can tell that you're that messed up, and I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry, I'm doing my best. Right? Like,
I'm trying.
Y'all, I'm trying.
I'm really trying. Like, do you know what I mean? Look, I'm being held together by like pure concentration. Like,
yes.
If I let my concentration slip,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna dissolve into this like angry puddle. Like,
I wish dissolve would be good. Like, I'm gonna blow up. Like, I'm like y'all, I'm a nuclear time bomb being held together by yoga. You really need to back off, right? But the thing is, I'm happy to talk about it, because the more I learned to talk about it, the more other Black girls were like, you too? I was like, you too? Holy shit. All of us? Literally all of us? Okay, wow. We got work. Like, how do we escape this? So that's and thank you, Kevin Samuels, for illuminating the Black male experience for me. I know, right? I know. Because you know, like, so I'm coming from this space, this Black female space, being like, oh my God, we are on the bottom of the planet. Like, nobody is checking in on us. Nobody gives it. We are all either crabs in a bucket or like divine goddesses holding this entire planet together, and I'm pretty sure it's both. And then, you know, but I'm not thinking from the Black male space, but my dad's like sending me these Kevin Samuel videos, like, you have to understand, and I'm like,
that's the thing I do find with some of those guys, and it's like, the same thing comes up when people start firing on like Umar Johnson. Like, I'm not saying there's not.
He has a lot of valid shit to say.
I think it's the thing is, with a lot of those guys, there's always this weird core of like, there's some value in here, but also it's
I'm
always.
about to like make a lot of people mad by being like, it's kind of like the Black people's Jordan Peterson.
Well, no, straight up. That's the thing that comes up, and I think, like, how I navigate this, and I think how I navigate those kind of things, and like that's the thing I think people always have to realize. Be it Kevin Samuels, be it Umar Johnson, be it Jordan Peterson, is that they're always coming from a perspective, like from a context of lived experience to them, like as much as we try and try and diverge from like be like, oh no, this is objective. No, the reality is that if you've been raised like with a certain like, so if you were saying like in like the black church in the States, right, you're going to carry that influence and those like a set of values or something. You might not even know it consciously, but there's going to be a way in which that informs how you view the world. And I think that's the thing that comes up with some of those, and I guess there's a tendency with those kind of figures, is it's always like, don't suddenly treat them like they're an objective truth, because they're always coming from a perspective that is based on, like all of us, we're all coming from a perspective of based on our own experiences.
Yeah, like, I mean, Kevin Samuels is basically a Reddit forum with a loudspeaker. But at the same time, there's value in that, because I did not understand, like, you hear all of the people who do resonate with what he's saying, and you understand that the, like, black male diaspora of African people are also feeling unheard in their troubles, even when trying to relate to black women, and vice versa. And, like, black women are famously always grilling black men about what they need. But, like, you know, being able to openly speak about what they really need in the other direction is something that they feel kind of, like, emasculated and taken from them. And that's a big part of the whole mental health in our community equation. Like, meanwhile, like, we've got black women and black men, but, like, black trans girls are sitting there and be like, we exist, y'all! Like, come on! You know, like, and so, like, they're trying to navigate that as well in their space, like, queer existence in black spaces, and trying to navigate that whole identity so that's black. Like, just, like, we have a collective vision of who we are and what we are, and it does not necessarily suit us except for the ways in which it does. And navigating that is a pick and mix, and that's, like, a big part of the framework.
Yeah.
Now, the mental part of it is that mental health, unless we want to backtrack.
No, we're
okay. We can move just forward a bit.
Mental.
So the mental part of the mental health aspect is that therapy has not famously done us really well. Historically speaking, therapy and black people have gone together like a torturer and a torturee. Like, it's just, that field in itself has advanced quite a lot, from lobotomies and electrocuting you. It's come a little bit of a ways, and, like, diagnosing you with wanting to have sex with your parents, right? Like, thank you, Freud. I vomited a little in my mouth. That's so nice of you, right? Like, so it's come a long way from its, like, origin story as, like, an underdog science.
I think the thing I found in therapy is like, especially if you're going through a rough patch as well, the difficult thing is if you're feeling shitty, it is like a really hard thing to then have to find the energy to say, do you have, like, a not white therapist that I can talk to? Because that's the thing I wish.
Especially when it revolves racial problems. If I want to talk about, like, microaggressions and negging and feeling dysphoric in a white space, and I bring that to a white therapist, they're only going to be able to give me generic or textbook advice. They're not even going to be able to go there anecdotal and be like, oh girl, I know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a thing, like, I did, like, in I know, like, one of the biggest mental batches I kind of hit was the end of my second year at uni. And then at one point I was like, I need to go do some counselling. And the problem was that the first counsellor, that you essentially, you know, they have, like, a screening, and then essentially then once they kind of work out some core stuff, and then it meant that, and then they were like, okay, well, after this we'll put you with someone else. And I remember, like, the first counsellor I had was a Māori woman, and it was fantastic because it was someone who, obviously, even though there are you know, significant differences between Māori and black experiences, it was someone who was coming from a similar kind of place of, I guess, being a person of colour, and it meant that it was really easy it felt really easy to, you know, to have, you know, to express what I was feeling, and to even cry. Like, that was something that it was one of those things, but then
feeling safe to cry is, like, a sign of a good, like, if you're in the right place, you'll feel safe to just break down, but for real.
Yeah, and then the problem was that, like, the second, like, then that was like the screening, and then the therapist I then got put with, were just kind of and you know, part of I think there's something that needs to be said about therapy, in that therapy isn't there to tell you how to fix your problems. It's trying to get you to kind of work out how to address stuff. And I also think that therapists need to make that really clear, that I'm not here to answer your problems for you. I'm here to support and help guide you through the process of kind of finding stuff out.
Well, there's different gradations of what, like, there's a part of me who wants to say therapists is the default assumption when you think about mental health, of people who are mentally unwell or even just feeling down. There's gradation. There's everything from, literally, I just sat down and had a corridor with some of my good friends and I felt better afterwards, right? Because my problems weren't so big. I was just feeling shit. Right over to the full-blown mental chemical imbalances and flashbacks and disassociated dysphoria, like history of abuse, and if not abuse, then a history of being an abuser, which like one of the things I even want to bring up is that when you're really talking about the mental health community, you're not just talking about people with a history of being abused, you're talking about people who have a history of being abusive, and like what can we do for them? Like, you know, you go through terrible things, and like especially in the Black community, you hear about all these things, and you get these, like, and I have myself been guilty of this, of black and white thinking, where you have the good guy and the bad guy. And we're gonna file the good guy into therapy for whatever bad happened to them, and we're gonna file the bad guy into prison or like an insane ward, like, because they're bad. They, you know. But my thought is that as mental health advances, I want to see more understanding of that social work that would, one, be preventative, two, be reforming, and three, be, you know, healing for those who have seen some shit. That's the big thing. And so the framework for me is that it used to just be, we just want you to stop being a burden on your average, you know, white family. Like, we really just want you to not get in the way of, you know, pomp and circumstance, and to not be a burden to your average white suburban family. Whatever you are, even if you're part of that family, we just want to shut you up, lock you away, take out your brain, zap your head, whatever it gets to get us back to that image of sanity. Whereas as mental health has advanced, as all of us have started to unpack, like, there's now generations of people who've gone to enough therapy that they talk to each other, they're like, wow, I didn't think I was crazy, and I didn't think my childhood was that bad, but now that I've unpacked it, I've learned that actually I'm like, you know, 2/4 Cherokee, and I'm going to connect with my, you know, Native American heritage, and that has really brought me a wealth of wellness I didn't know was in me, right? Like, and they start unpacking and really self-assessing and finding, even if they were okay, there was a level beyond that. And even if they weren't okay, they could reach okay when they didn't think they could. And even if they thought all hope was lost, they could get back to at least hope. And like mental health as applied to people on the top, you find that people in these high pressure situations are also reaching for therapists left, right, and center quite desperately, because the truth about it is that mental health, mental well-being is when you put somebody under pressure, they change shape. And if they cannot be the shape that they need to be, then you need to get them in a situation again where they can assess what shape is it that you need to be, let's get you there. And you can only self-determine what shape you need to be. But a therapist can be like, but man, do I have some tools for you. Oh, would you like to get the whiteboard out?
Yeah, you're feeling like, it's just like, you're feeling a bit rectangular, and we're trying to get you to like, we're trying to get you to be a square. To draw on some like Jack Kerouac. You don't want you to be the square. Be a square.
Well, I mean, like, it's a bit like a good therapist, you walk in, you're like, I've always wanted to be a circle man, but I'm a square. And they're like, hold on, let me get you the tool for that. You know, like, we got some edges beveling, and we can really get you to be the circle you want to be. And like, and it is, it's that, it's about like pressure, like that pressure. And I think that especially in the Black community, we have like a whole bunch of natural therapists, because we're constantly under that pressure cooker situation, at least on a global scale. And so you have a lot of people who are either, I think I said this before, but like, you know, in this situation where we tend to split off because of that pressure, either into people who are really good at coping with it or people who have failed to. So you either have crumbled, you're in that crumbled state, or you're in the recovery state, and in that state you're like the Avatar, you're like able to, you know, like channel everything, you're fine. But yeah, like, so that's like Black and the mental aspect. And the mental aspect does boil down to, this is a new thing. It's not a science. And it's also not a new thing in that these roles of healer, like, or of people who understand the mind, were gurus and philosophers, and they were priests and healers, and they were mothers and aunties, and that uncle who would come around with a beer, who knew, like, who knew you and knew you, and who would come with a beer, and we'd have a couple of beers, and we'd sort it out. And so that was a role, but especially in the face of this fast-paced, internet, Facebook, 7 billion of us. Like, honest to 7 billion, goddamn, wow. Y'all, you be getting out there. Like 7 billion of us. How are you supposed to keep up with 7 billion people, decent number of which have a voice and a platform on the internet? Like, being able to contact each other at the drop of the hat. We are spreading mental unwellness at, like, you know, Mach speeds, like, and causing each other, like, we'll have, you know, like, I myself am always, I say always, I'm involved in several, yes.
I'd say, there's a couple of things I want to delve into in terms of...
Watch my skin roll.
Yeah, in terms of, I guess, like, especially the internet era and mental health, and I guess, from my community, and I think, I'd like to jump onto that. Can we jump to a song quickly for it?
Oh, yes,
yeah, I was going to play this one.
Like, we'll put a pin in it. It's like, we'll put with the black mental and health. And the mental part is that mental health surgeries are new, and then, like, it's like, what is the mind? But let's
sorry, I was like...
No, it's good, it's good.
I was like, this feels like a good break point.
It is.
So, yeah, like... so the next track up is Smooth Criminal by Nduna. So Nduna's a Wellington-based artist. And, yeah, he's quite fantastic. I've met... yeah, he's fantastic. This is Smooth Criminal. And we are back.
And you've been hit by... Sorry. I'm not sorry. You know I'm not sorry. Don't look at me like that.
I'm not asking you to apologize.
Right.
I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Oh!
So that was... Welcome back to the Blackhouse.
We are on fire because I just got burned. 106.1
FM. That was Smooth Criminal by Nduna. Yeah, Nduna's a Wellington-based artist. I think he's South African, and then he's a really good mate of one of Leah's sons. So he's quite cool. He's helped me out setting up a sound system at a bar for the Dashiki party, which was great because that was a stressful 2 hours. That should have been 30 minutes. Sorry, I'm rambling.
Yeah.
So I suppose
we were talking about mental health.
And the internet.
Yes, and the internet and the framework of mental health, and especially that impact on the black community.
Mm-hmm.
We came into the conversation of mental health, the internet. And I will say that the mental aspect when it comes to the internet and any community, it has nothing to do with like a particularly color, is that it is now gone on record is not that good for your mental health. And this is something that's reflected in the fact that, go ahead, like, have a breakdown that you didn't then post to Facebook. Take a break, and watch just how many people, like, don't just check on you, like, where are you? Why haven't you responded to my messages? Like, and you will get, like, however many messages, especially if you're really generally on point, that will harass you at 3 a.m. at any time of day, just that will not let you have 1 week to yourself to answer no messages from Facebook.
And I think the big thing with the internet in this regard is, I suppose it is the core of... I think mental health is probably, I'd say, the biggest in terms of... the internet has such a fantastic ability to be connected, and also think it has such a good ability to be supportive and build networks of support. Yeah. But I also think it also has the greatest ability to really fuck with people.
Yeah, no, it really does.
And I was interested, it was the
And I also think that whilst you have those those digital networks, whilst they feel amazing and you can really get a lot out of them, I think that there's something to be said for the fact, like the same argument they make for porn, which is that if you go to porn to get that mental stimulation, what you don't end up doing is seeking out genuine human IRL, like I can actually see and talk to you connection.
Yeah. And
it sets up some weird expectations for what people are capable of being for you all the time in a physical and real sense. So
yeah, I feel
there's that.
And I guess it's also a thing, I suppose, and it comes, but I think this isn't just linked to mental health. I think this is on any pertinent social issue. But I think there is a difficulty of media depictions of mental health, and I think the same discussion that comes up with
those Facebook memes about I'm an empath and who's that a narcissist when. And
yeah, well, one I was thinking about is obviously last year, or at the end of last year, there was a movie that came out. It was essentially Groundhog Day, but a black person, and it was I think Joey Badass played the main character. So it was essentially Groundhog Day, and essentially just kept ending with this guy leaving like his like Tinder date's house, and like going like trying to walk home. He leaves this girl's house. She's in like a nice neighborhood, and then it ends up he gets shot.
Wow.
And the whole thing, and it's Groundhog Day, and the thing was people saying is like, look, there's something powerful about this, and the core of the idea was from a black creator, but the difficult thing is that it's passing through. I think with media, especially regarding I think any social shit, I think mental health falls into that category. It's trying to work out what is, I guess, how do we.
I know sometimes it's really hard to wrap the words around it. I think especially when topics of mental health, and you're trying to be delicate with the fact that like you know how you approach these things.
I think it's good that we have media that is really willing to engage with mental health, but we also wonder if it's not similar to those things being profited off of.
Right, like a sort of blaxploitation, but mental health, like mentally unwell exploitation, like where you're taking people who are not benefiting from you writing things.
Yeah, and I suppose from one standpoint, I think the easiest, and I think the most straightforward argument is going, well, at the end of the day, if 10 kids watch that and that's something that is a positive thing for them, that you can't doubt its ability, but also you sit there and go, well, it also means that I think it's probably the same way that we had that, you know, people saying like with media involving black folk, like in terms of avoiding like black trauma in media. Yes. Is there going to become a similar point where we're like, okay, hang on, no, we need to make sure that we're dealing with mental health in a similar thing that isn't
like like Precious as a thing that came out like recently, which is about a girl who I think
Precious, that's almost like, that's probably 15 years old now.
Oh wow.
Precious, yeah. Like
no, that's right. That's like Precious. There was one more recently with the bald black girl who would wear like the like devil wings and. Sorry, but there's a whole bunch of stuff like that where it's kind of like where we're bringing attention, media that brings attention to the black struggles. I think that there's good ways and bad ways to handle everything. I think like especially being black, you watch your media and you can really see the difference can be stark. But we haven't got forever, so I'm going to get through like the mental part of the mental.
Yeah.
The real thing about the mental part of the mental is that we're currently in a really toxic environment mentally. Like being connected, we thought it would be great, and it has been. Technologically, it has advanced us quite a lot, but psychologically, it has been painful, and for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
But this field is advancing as we speak. There are lots of things that you could have previously been diagnosed with mentally that were just a write-off. You're like, look, we're just going to throw you in the mental health. We're going to throw you in with the rest of the crazies, like the one which is famously the worst of them. You got your BPD, like a bipolar, not BPD, it's like borderline personality disorder. And that used to be a death sentence, but now they have more ways of actually handling people who have this emotionally dysregulated disease, like, you know, mental disease. That's the mental side of it.
Yeah.
Now, there's the, health side of it, like black mental health. So, the health part of it, I have too much to say. We don't have enough time.
I'm gonna go like you have like three minutes.
Oh damn.
3 minutes.
Damn. Let's see if I can do this.
We're gonna break this down 3 minute chunks. Like,
okay.
Bam.
I'm gonna do this I'm on the top floor of an elevator. It's in Japan, so it's a big ass elevator. It's like it's a Sha'Carri Richards. But I've got like a minute to pitch this mental health book to like this investor who's like, tell me about your book.
Right, so welcome to the Dragon's Den.
Yeah, I know, right? Son. So here's the thing. Like, the health part of the mental health is the bit that I care the most about. Like, it used to be bad mental health. We know black people didn't traditionally go to therapists, but we're onto it. We are black. We are drinking water. We are doing yoga. We got ourselves a therapist. They are also black. We are talking about our problems. We got collective groups. We are talking about post-trauma. We've got helplines. We've got, we are here. We've got resources and community. So the health part of the mental health, like the black mental health thing for me, is that the first step is sitting down with who you are and what you want, and asking yourself, is it working for me? Because if it is, y'all just continue with what you're doing. You don't need to worry about mental health. Don't worry, and don't put your finger in whoever else's pie is mental health pie. If you have got what you want and you're working for you and you are making them dollars, you got the love of your life to the left of you, even if that's a can of Coca-Cola, like you're fine. You don't need to be here. You don't need to be thinking about this too hard. Because if you are fine, we'll need you in the future. You just tuck yourself away. And just you sit tight and don't ruin this.
And then when the rest of us are just like
once we all
around their hands on fire.
Right, like once we all catch up to you, like you're gonna be like, I don't know what happened, but like you just sit there and stand as a good example, right? Like we will all aspire to you. But for the rest of us, we're not like many of us are not where we want to be in love and in money and in familial relationships and in community relationships. Most of us have huge dreams and aspirations that we are falling short of, and we are tearing ourselves apart inside because of that. Many of us, even when we are satisfied, people around us are unsatisfied with who we are. And that's where the health part of mental health comes in. So it's about those checkups, check-ins, like it's about being able to check out. Like we say with social media, being able to say, like, being able to look at the group and say, I need a timeout because I'm not available for this, right? So I need to go do some yoga and listen to some like meditation music.
Well, like, and I think in context, I think that's something. I guess the thing. I guess it's difficult in a post-COVID era, but I think that's something to do. Is like obviously like it's nice having the message to check in, but I guess another thing is that like, and I think. Historically, actually, like, you know, if you wanted to go see someone, you'd like either call them up or you'd like write them a letter and you'd come around and and I think there's something about that I'm also just like, you know what, like that sounds really nice. Like that's something that I think the physical content, like even just dropping someone a call and be like, hey, like, are you busy? I'll be over in 20 minutes. And like, I think if we're gonna have these kind of things,
most of the millennials I know would have a heart attack if you say, are you busy? I'll be over in 20 minutes.
But I think that's one of those things I guess. Like I guess to try and balance out the social media check-in and the constant nature of it. Is like you said, it's stripping back to like a personal, like a direct like conversation. It's that personal content. Like
so with the health part of the mental health, if I've got just a little bit to tag in.
Sorry.
Like the big thing for me is that we used to have structures in place for this, but many of them are old and many of them are stigmatized and many of them are changing. It used to be like a mother's job or a grandmother's job or like that cool uncle who never had kids job to come in and a barber shop. And these, like, it used to be the priest, it used to be confessionals, it used to be yoga retreat, like monasteries and retreats, and like you used to be able to be like, man, I don't feel so well psychologically speaking, I'm gonna go join I was about to say coven, but I meant the moment like you know you'd join a group of people who had abstained from the fast pace of social life, and like just check in with yourself for however long that'd take. And you'd have people who knew how to check in with people, even when they didn't know how to do so with themselves. But those structures are changing so dramatically in this modern age. And the health part of mental health is to check in at least with yourself, to say what structures are available and underneath me, to help me when if you're not feeling like that guy we put to the side, I'm like, well, the only thing I want you to check in is, imagine yourself not feeling too well. Ask yourself, where would you go? Who would you talk to? Do you have things in place for if it all fell apart? If tomorrow you were to lose a leg or a limb or a loved one, do you know what you would do with that information? And like, if that person then turns around and is like, oh, well, I've got my church and my aunt such and such, and she has a house in the block, and you're like, then you're fine. You really are fine. You're genuinely fine. But for a lot of us, those structures are missing. And if not missing, then they're fresh to us. We're still trying them on.
And I suppose that's the thing of like, I suppose in some ways like it's an intergenerational thing as well. When I disappoint was about saying like, the more time that you have to build those structures, and again like that, like it could just be that for this generation, like these current current generations of black folk, like, who are starting to find that foundation, to find that space. It's now getting to the point where, you know, their kids or their great-grandkids or their great-grandkids are going to come into a space where that's not a fresh space. Where, like, that's not fresh. And I think I guess it's one of those things where maybe like a lot of stuff, it is just time. Like, it's gonna be.
Well, I mean, I know for a fact it's gonna come right with time. I just do. Like, look, we're black, we're awesome, we do cool things. Like, I think, like, to, like, round it off, there's the thing that matters to me, though, is that people are talking about the frameworks and assessing that. People are aware that there's more going on. If you're going through something, I need you to know you are not the first, nor will you be the last to go through it. And every way in which you handle it is a path that will become reinforced as we move forward collectively. And that, you know, there are people who can guide you, there is things out there for you, and that we don't need to do shit. Y'all just check in with yourselves, right? Like you're not a narcissist because you check in with yourself, and you're not an empath just because you feel other people's feelings.
There's just a level where, like, I think, I guess we talk about it, like, like I said, like, there's almost, I guess, that's maybe the other problem with social media. And I suppose, briefly, it's just that, and because topics of discussing mental health have become such a huge, like, discussion that's been at the forefront of, like, you know, the forefront for, like, the last, you know, really recently. But I think the thing
is, like, recently Oprah Winfrey released a book called What Happened to You. And that's a huge step, because like, y'all, if Oprah's doing it, if she's opening up, you better believe a generation like will not be along.
But I guess in terms of my closing thought, like, I guess, like, it's almost just like, is the part of the social media is that you have a lot of people who have an understanding, not the deepest understanding of different mental health, and then you throw things around like narcissist, and then you can contribute to that problem because people suddenly,
an empath, like,
people suddenly feel like, oh, you're targeting. If I go into myself and actually do what's right for myself, like, am I being selfish? And I think it's just good to, I guess, keep having discussions, and I guess keep being like, you know, it's all right if you need space for yourself.
Right, like, I think, so if I was going to give some closing statements, it would be this. Like, I think that we are currently struggling through the end of a pandemic. I think that people are stressed. I think that people's economic situations, which all of it boils down to economics and resource management. No matter what, you're like, I'm feeling like, no, you ain't. You just haven't eaten or slept yet because you can't, because you need to work. So if I had a closing statement, it would be as much as, like, it is checking in with yourself. It is it is reassessing your position. It is understanding the gap between the shape you are and the shape you want to be. And it's understanding that other people are going through whatever your journey is going to be, like, whatever the gap looks like and that journey, somebody else is going through it right now. You can go through it with them, and somebody has been through it before you, and they can maybe give you some advice. And navigating that both together, like, together alone, you know, like we can also check in with ourselves and navigate that with our one last thing. The big thing, like,
20 seconds.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know, right? Well, in that case, if we've only got 20 seconds left, thank you very much for listening to Blackhouse. I hope your mental health be well, and I hope whatever you're dealing with is manageable.
This will be something we'll keep talking about. So thanks for tuning in. Come just to close. I'm feeling this. I'm gonna play Fisherman by J. Huss Millstack and Myth because it's been stuck in my head all day. So this is Fisherman. Thank you for watching the Blackhouse. Listening to the Blackhouse. It's been Eddie and Nani, and we'll be up on YouTube. Peace.